Welcome to the Shoot the Ones podcast, episode 1. Hi, I'm Genya.
And I am Dema. This is Mixed Martial Arts podcast that will primarily focus on going over past and upcoming events.
And what we hope will become a weekly thing. First, we'll talk about last week's card. Then we'll discuss what is happening this week, along with any MMA-related news, recent events, predictions, upcoming betting lines, and more.
This week, since it's our first, we will quickly introduce ourselves. Then, we talk about UFC on Fox 23, Shevchenko Pena, upcoming UFC Fight Night 104, Bermudez vs. Korean Zombie, as well as touch on this week's stories. Basically, when did we start watching fights?
I would say roughly in the mid-90s was roughly when we both began. Wouldn't you agree? Started out watching on VHS when you had to still go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video to rent it, and the pay-per-views, I believe, we'd steal them on the pay-per-views.
You're a little bit older, so you started just a little bit before I did, and you were actually played a part in me starting it. I was coming over from professional wrestling, and I think I was in my early mid-teens, and when we were hanging out, and I think Chuck versus Tito was a 1 or 2. Was one of the pay-per-views I watched over at your crib, like way back in maybe 99 or like 2000, early 2000 sometime.
Gosh, you're good with your times. I believe it was roughly around Chuck and Tito. I remember those wars, and I remember most of all they got people excited with the microphone. That's how I got into it. They talked, and like you, I also was into the WWE, and then I came to that age, where kind of moved past WWE and wrestling, and
when you kind of you knew it was scripted, and you figured out how they were doing the outcomes, and the whole talking thing was kind of cool. After you knew it was fake, but that kind of grew old.
Same reason. Oh, go ahead.
You wanted to see more of a sport.
Yeah, same reasoning as you, pretty much. Like, I remember going back to those videos that we watched, and we'd see the first UFCs. We'd see the, Pride, the old Val Tudo fights. And to myself, I'm thinking, why am I watching these guys pretend to clothesline each other, pretend to pile drive each other, when we can watch, people actually fighting and find out? For me, the reason I got started is I wanted to find out who the best fighter was. I kind of found out that was a never-ending search, but that was kind of my initial goal with it. I find out that, the best fighter from 5 years ago is not the best fighter today, and that's a lot of why MMA is my favorite sport and why I love it.
Jenny, when we started watching, it was like dark age times of MMA. It was on pay-per-view, like right next to the porn channels.
Yeah.
Along with worst ghetto fights.
Oh, yeah. I used to love those ghetto fights, too. But I know exactly. It was a very niche audience.
Street fights.
Tap Out was the main one sponsoring, though. And at that time, and yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of money in it. Like today, what were you telling me about earlier? That the video I watched, Conor McGregor. What was his event called again?
The Conor McGregor Experience.
The Experience.
But we'll get to that later when we go into like recent events and news. And
yeah,
stuff
we'll go over that a little bit later in the episode. But my point with that is just so many people are watching, and back then. They're watching a guy give a speech. Back then, nobody watched, the best fighters in the world actually competing.
Yeah, kind of amazing as a contrast.
First, we're going to go over UFC on Fox 23, Shevchenko versus Pena. A surprisingly stellar card. Wouldn't you agree, Dema?
Yeah, it was, at least the main event was eventful.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the main event, barring, of course, the Nate Marquardt, Sam Alvey debacle. But
main card, I meant to say.
Yeah, we'll go over that in a minute. To be honest with you guys, we're going to fly through some of these undercards because Dema didn't watch all the undercards, and frankly, some of them weren't the most interesting. Granted, a lot of good up and coming fighters and a lot of finishes on the undercard. First fight, Dema did catch, right? JC Cottrell versus Jason Gonzalez.
Was it the Darce
Yep,
choke finish?
That was the one that they replayed when they hit the Fox Sports 1.
Gonzalez was the guy that hit the Darce choke?
Yeah, Gonzalez hit him.
Very Ferguson-esque in his technique.
I agree, man. I liked how he was... He had a real calm demeanor to him the whole fight. And you can't say... He was in a losing position, but he wasn't really losing bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he kind of overcame and you got the sprawl there at a good time and just timed it just right. Yeah, he also got some long limbs. That fucker is hard to fight.
Where I was going with that is I really liked how slick the transition was. Like he went from getting a better position to immediately grabbing the neck for the Bravo choke.
Was it Bravo choke?
They're calling everything a Bravo choke nowadays.
It was a Darce choke. If I remember correctly, it was a
Darce choke. Why'd they call it a Bravo choke on here? They're calling everything the damn Bravo, but it was the same choke that Tony Ferguson's got 2 or 3 guys with the UFC.
That's what I want to know.
Well, what else did they call the Bravo choke on this card? No, it was a different card.
Yeah, because we saw it come up earlier.
Yeah. All right, second card, Dema, I don't think caught this one, so I'm going to be quick about it. Alexander Pantejo, sorry if I butchered your name, buddy, versus Eric Shelton. This was a good split decision fight. I mean, these guys, what can I say? They're 2 good-looking 135-pounders. Pantojo just started training with, let me double-check. I don't want to slander his name, but I believe it was, what's Henry Cejudo's team? Yeah, it was a good showing for both of them. You can see Eric Shelton's got the athletic edge in the fight. Pantoja's he's really good jiu-jitsu guy. He's good at the scrambles. He's a tough Brazilian guy. And he's filling his biggest hole, which is wrestling, you know. And that's a good first hole to have. You know, if you're good at jiu-jitsu, you're tough, you strike well. Mm-hmm. Moving on, Marcos Rogerio de Lima versus Jeremy Kimball. Dema, did you catch this one?
I'm looking at Henry Cejudo. His team is fight ready. That's what it says.
Yeah, they changed. You'd have to Google it. He's with one
not up to date.
He's with one of the A's. It's either American Kickboxing Academy or American Top Team.
But we can go on to the next one. Was it Marcos Rogerio de Lima defeats Jeremy Kimball?
Did you see this fight?
By punches. No, I missed this. Unfortunately.
So Jeremy Kimball
in the first round.
A fella that looks a little bit like my co-host. Look, he does look a little bit like you, man.
A guy that looks like me got beat up.
Yeah, well, the thing about it wasn't beat up. He was looking okay for himself. Apparently,
maybe one day we forget the video up. You can see the resemblance.
Apparently,
he's a redheaded, ginger-looking guy with a beard, and
but your beard hasn't been like that in a while. You used to have the Jeremy Kimball thing.
Yeah, sometimes you know, if I let the monkeys out.
But Mr. Kimball actually had a good account of himself. He was moving around. He was sticking and moving, and then he had a real awkward slip. And when he slipped, he tried to, like regain himself, Dema. Mm-hmm. And when he's trying to regain himself, old Rogerio de Lima, big jiu-jitsu guy who's got fucking heavy fists, he hits him right there, where you
right in the noggin,
where you turn off somebody's
via JDS and Kane 1, where he hits him behind the ear.
Yeah, so where he turns off the guy's lights. And he fucking followed up with a couple brutal punches. And the ref comes running in there. Crowd's kind of pissed off, but at the same time, a fighter's got to do what a fighter's got to do. The opportunity's there. What are you going to be like? He's falling. I probably shouldn't hit him right now. You know?
So it was a little bit of a late stoppage.
No, it was just kind of, and I think Lima would have won.
Or he hit him a couple of times, maybe unnecessarily.
No, it was fair. It was fair stoppage, fair everything. Only thing is,
what's the problem?
The crowd was unhappy because they thought it was inopportune for him to hit him while the guy. First of all, you got to understand, Kimball's a hometown guy for this fight, so he's fallen. He's unfortunately fallen because he tripped, and Rogerio de Lima pops him in the back of the head, and the crowd was unhappy about this because well, their guy lost, you know, and he lost because of an inopportune mistake was really what it came down to.
I see it was listed as catchweight. Who came overweight?
Oh, yeah, good call. I forgot to talk about this. Lima was about 5 pounds overweight. 209 and 3/4.
Yeah, they might also boot him because of that a little bit.
And he celebrated the win after, like, dude was falling down, and he's like, yeah, got him.
Well,
but a win's a win.
He caught him slipping. Literally. All right, on to the next one. Eric Spicely versus Alessio De Chirico. Am I pronouncing?
Alessio De Chirico. I thought, yeah, as good as I think me or you were going to do on that one.
All right, fair enough.
This is one of the ones that you didn't watch either? Am I accurate with that? Yeah,
I joined in way late with the Chinese fella versus Bobby Nash.
This is one I recommend both you listeners and you, Dimitri. I would rewatch this fight. It's an excellent display of jiu-jitsu. I personally was really impressed because I wasn't a believer in this Eric Spicely fella. I saw him on Tough. He won a couple matches because he was a lot better at jiu-jitsu than some of the guys, but he had one of those physiques, you know, like a Fedor, but even more pudgy back then. He's improved his physique a tiny bit since then, but he's not an intimidating fighter like a lot of the guys. He's got the neck tattoo, but other than that, he's not like you don't look at him and like, whoa, that's a badass right there. But man, he's slick at jiu-jitsu, man. He's getting these guys that are good fighters.
How do you win? It's his first round triangle.
That's why, like, the triangle was expertly put on. He talks about it after the fight because he gets him in a triangle. Like, the dude, he gets the Chirio, right? He works a takedown on Spicely.
Yeah.
Spicely immediately transitions to the triangle shit. He pulls his leg up.
Like a rubber guard?
Yeah, and damn, I kind of want to stop this and let you watch that shit, man. It's so fucking nice, dude.
I'll catch.
It's only a minute 24, man. Yeah.
So he slips the triangle here masterfully.
But no. So like, dude gets like he gets him down, right?
Okay.
And Spicely starts working the triangle right away. But to get the triangle, like his shoulders are up against the fence and shit. So he scoots. You know?
Turns to the side.
And then he kind of like repositions it a little bit, waits for homeboy to fuck up, pushes up against the fence, gets it tighter, grabs old buddy's head, and it's game over, man. He's got his shoulders perfectly positioned. Mm-hmm. Brian Stan, who I've started to really enjoy, he breaks it down like perfect at the end, what he did. Brian Stan was kind of giddy because he hasn't seen technique like that in a while.
But good to see Brian Stan improve by leaps and bounds from what he used to be when he started. I think he might be the next guy to kind of fill in Goldie's shoes.
Next fight.
Jordan Johnson, Henrique da Silva.
This is about the time you tuned in, right?
No, next one.
You tuned in the next one. Oh, you tuned in for a nasty match, man. We'll go over that next. Jordan Johnson versus Luis Henrique da Silva. What can I tell you about that one? Jordan Johnson was real high-level collegiate wrestler. I'm not sure of his exact credentials. I'd have to research him. I know he was a winning wrestler, and people were real excited to see him come into the MMA from that sphere of wrestling. He was taking on tough Luis Henrique da Silva. Henrique da Silva probably got some wins, you know, he might not have, should have gotten in the UFC because he's a tough mofo.
So Jordan is, it's his debut, and Henrique has fought in UFC before?
Henrique, if you remember a month ago, he fought the Bear Jew and didn't do so hot against the Bear Jew. The Bear Jew came in, pulled guard, and you know who I'm speaking with about the Bear Jew, right?
Yeah,
Paul Craig.
Real quick, yeah.
Yeah, that's the same guy that fought Paul Craig that we watched.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Jordan Johnson beat him way more impressively than Craig. I could say that. Jordan Johnson really just beat the shit out of him, man. Controlled him for 3 rounds, beat him in the stand-up, maybe took 1 or 2 punches where you were like, oh, that probably hurt. Never had Jordan stunned, you know, but like, where you were just like, oh, that might have hurt a little bit. I wouldn't like to be punched in the face like that. But beyond that, Jordan Johnson completely dominated. Exactly how you'd want to look in a debut.
Gotcha.
Going on to the next fight. This is where you're tuned in, and what a fight it was. Li Jinling versus Bobby Nash. Thoughts, Dimitri?
Oh, man. Bobby Nash looked good for his UFC debut. Came out, it was landing shots. Really had Jiang looking bad in several parts of the fight. First round, thought to have been winning. And until Lee hits him with this, was it a straight right? He clips him good, right? And
I have to rewatch it. Yeah,
Bobby just goes stumbling back, and it was the end of it all for him.
The way I remember the fight, Bobby Nash is a man with really long arms. It seems just like Johnson prior fight. He's a wrestler. He's a Michigan State guy. Did pretty well there at Michigan State, and he's fighting always tough Li Jinling. And he was putting a beating on Jinling, and it was back and forth, man. Both guys got dropped like upwards of 2 times each, and it just seemed like Lee had the I will not lose mentality and was a little bit slicker on the feet, I would say. Or maybe not even slicker, maybe just could take more damage.
Maybe Bobby got a little bit reckless there at second round at one point, and
do you think
Lee just he instead of winging punches, he more stayed with straights, jabs, that kind of thing, and just his precision and accuracy really is what won him the fight there. That straight right opened Bobby up real bad, and wasn't the same after that. All Lee had to do afterwards is just I think he came in with like an overhand with a couple of punches, but Bobby was already fucked at that point. I think he landed one more punch, and Bobby just fell down like a tree.
Let me ask you a question, Dema. This was Bobby Nash's first fight in the UFC. Do you think it played a role in this fight? Do you think it would have been different if it had, let's say, Bobby Nash had the same amount of fights as Lee in the UFC?
Octagon jitters are for real. I've seen guys not do so hot their first time during their debut, and then really come back and make a good run of it.
But high-level wrestlers, or you think that affects even them?
Everybody. The crowd, the lights, oh shit, I just got signed to the biggest promotion.
It's a different show, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
It's definitely a different show. I have to agree with that.
Give Bobby another chance. That was a good showing, despite getting knocked out. I think he just kind of got a little bit wild there, and the fight got away from him.
He'll get a couple more chances. I'm actually really excited to see where this kid goes. He's a pretty good fighter. You ready to move on to the next fight?
Yeah, not as exciting. It goes from here, but it's part of the sport.
You want to introduce this one?
Rafael Assunção defeats Aljamain Sterling. Split decision, 28-29s across the board. Your thoughts?
Whew, you could tell both guys were cautious. Would you agree with that? Both guys knew that this fight had a lot of meaning, and they fought like it. And it kind of made for a shitty fight.
Aljo hasn't been doing so hot. It's like he was trying to be cautious. Wasn't really fighting as like himself.
Yeah, I think he
has some hesitancy there.
That's a fair. You make a valid point. I think more so than that, he had trouble with the Sensei style. Just figuring out how to get in, and when he was getting hit by Rafael, he didn't like it. It was harder than he was hitting Rafael. So, like, I'll be honest, I put my money on Aljamain this fight. I thought he was going to show us something new. He really didn't show us anything new from the Brian Caraway fight. It was a close fight. You can't really get mad if it went either way. Aljamain definitely won the third round. That was the biggest gap, but I don't think
ultimately not enough to seal the deal.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue the first 2 rounds for Rafael, and you can't really, even though like Aljamain might have won one of those rounds, you can't get upset if the judge didn't give it to him, type thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's
Sam Alvey defeats Nate Marquardt. The decision unanimous. I didn't think Nate the Great looked all that great during this fight.
Yeah, this is going to bring up one of those talking points. It looks like they've been throwing in some of these older guys with the names to hype some of these newer guys. Granted, I don't know why you hype Sam Alvey. This guy, he's the worst on the microphone. I personally, let me get this clear before, because I don't want to talk junk. This isn't the point of this podcast. It's trash talk, because I respect every single fighter that gets in the ring.
But we do have our opinion.
But Sam Alvey is my least favorite right now in the UFC. I mean, this guy, he's the worst on the mic, and I think that's part of his style. He's I don't know. I guess like when you look deep down to it, he's not a bad guy. And I don't know. I just root against him. But
it's perfectly fine to have guys that you want to root against, kind of like your Bisbings, your. I
love Bisbing though.
Okay, well, he used to be that guy. As of his recent resurgence, no. I would cheer on him too.
I'll acknowledge I'm in the minority with that. There's still a lot of people
like guys
like
a Yoel Romero, like guys that they're kind of filling the villain role.
Yeah, Yoel, man, that guy's a monster. But yeah,
well, what kind of people don't like Caraway, for example? Choose to kind of cheer against him because he might not be the most exciting fighter, for example. His style, and many reasons.
It's hard to talk shit when you got the kind of style like I'm gonna hold you longer than you hold me.
Yeah.
Like how you gonna okay, that's your style, fine. I mean, you win however you can in there, you know? That's the goal, to win, whatever it takes to get your hand raised. But you shouldn't be talking junk like I'm going to beat your face in when you know good and well you're going to hug the guy for 15 minutes. You know? I would not want to go use that part. I was just chatting with you. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at Sam Alvey's recent wins, like over likes of Kevin Casey and Eric Spicely, who we talked about earlier.
Sam Alvey is on a streak. That's right. Eric Spicely was that was Eric Spicely's first UFC fight. Mm-hmm. And that's when I still believe, I'm starting to believe Eric Spicely, the difference between that fight and now, Eric Spicely wasn't living in the TriStar dorms then.
Yeah, it could be also
I don't think Sam Alvey beats him
that
now.
we talked about earlier.
Oh, did you hear Spicely's call out too after the fight?
Faintly. What was that? Can you remind me?
Yeah, absolutely. He called out. Sorry, it's a little bit funny to me because it was probably the least expected call out you can imagine. Mm-hmm. He really has I don't know, maybe it was WWE, but he apparently he has an issue with Judo Dan Kelly. He says, he's like, I don't like Dan Kelly's fat ass, something like that. and he's like, but he keeps on winning. You know, it was kind of a classic call out. Like he told him he respects that he's winning, but he doesn't respect his skills. Which Dan Kelly is legit, man. He was in the judo. He was in the Olympics.
He's not impressed with his performance.
That's your thing, judo, man. Do you think judo 40-year-old Dan Kelly could beat Eric Spicely? That might be the next fight.
No, I think he's a little bit past the hill, man. Yeah. He's got technique.
He's one of those guys that you always bet against, but he always wins. He finds a way.
A good underdog.
He finds a way to win, man. Yeah, he's just like Spicely. That's why the fight's kind of funny. He doesn't look like he'd be good at MMA, but he's a problem because he's got skills some of the other guys just don't have. From what I remember of the fight, this is what I was talking about in the Nate Marquardt Alvey fight. It looks a little bit like they're setting up a lot of these guys to be stepping stones for the newer guys. A lot of people knew Jason Knight was kind of a problem coming into this. He's got, like you said, he's got real solid jiu-jitsu, man. The guy is a problem when he gets your back. He puts the body triangle on really quickly. He did have a problem with Kawajiri in his first UFC fight, but a lot of people have a problem with Kawajiri. However, how about Decron Gracie? Just beat him in his third MMA fight ever.
Yeah, but Kawajiri's been in the game for a long time.
Yeah,
and he might be on his way out.
Shit.
Who did he call?
Yeah. It was a rear naked choke in the second round, and I wouldn't say Caceres had a whole lot of success in that fight. I think it was pretty much all Jason Knight all the way through.
Tough few last fights for Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy, what do you think though? Does he continue on in the UFC?
Dana likes him. I feel like they like his personality. They like that he's flashy. They might give him one more fight, but I personally would like to see Alex Caceres take a step back and do a couple of fights, maybe against not so tough opponents, and in a way rebuild himself back up.
I agree with that. I feel like they're using him a little bit as a measuring stick to see how good these prospects really are. I feel like I hate the word gatekeeper, but
they are doing it to him though. It's not bad to call somebody that when the company kind of sets them up to be that, as they have with recently with few guys that are on their way out. They do not. Fighters do not age so gracefully in the sport.
It's good because I believe, like you said, when you're a gatekeeper, correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't you say that you get a couple more losses like you could take before they cut you? I mean, it's always subject to whatever the hell the UFC wants to do.
Depends. If you're a likable guy, if they like you, if you can talk well, if you have a certain look to you, those are all factors that play into.
Yeah, the number one thing...
UFC's relationship towards fighters as we are moving into this new era of new ownership, especially that's more oriented towards entertainment and not so much hierarchy and order as we're used to.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a business. So if a guy is flash... like. I've never heard somebody be like, man, I don't like Caceres' style. I don't want to see that guy fight. He brings an exciting fight, and losses don't seem to hurt those kinds of guys more. Losses seem to hurt the John Fitches, the Jake Shields of MMA.
Or at least not as much.
No. A guy like Conor McGregor, do you even remember that he lost?
Yeah, because that was a very special fight.
Yeah, but Conor haters are loving it, but to be honest, man, like he's more popular now, than he was before he lost.
I would say he handled himself very well in defeat, and the way he came back and got the win back from Diaz cemented that.
Jason Knight's future, what is that? 145 pounds? Is that
featherweight?
Featherweight. Yair just got a win over Bruce Leroy.
And two up-and-comers against one another.
And then beat BJ Penn. No, Yair's getting a top dog, my boy. I don't think Yair's getting a Jason Knight, man. That would be kind of a slap in the face to Yair, I think. Even though I personally think it's a great fight. I think it would be a dog fight. But Yair's kind of... For some reason now, I guarantee you, man, beating BJ Penn threw him in the top 10. I've seen guys beat guys, and this happens a lot. The guy will fight a guy, and he's 20th ranked, maybe a BJ Penn that hasn't been in the fighting for 3 years, and they'll go from like 13th, 14th rank to 9th.
How about Sergio Pettis?
Sergio Pettis
on the up and up now.
Sergio Pettis just got a big win. Who did he beat?
Pettis just beat John Moraga.
John Moraga
looked good against him too.
I think that would be a good fight, man. I don't know who I would take in that one. I think Pettis is a problem. I like the fight. I think Pettis wins.
But it would be a good matchup.
I think Knight would give him trouble, man. Knight's a little bit of a gangster in there, man. Knight gets in there, he gets in your face, he wants to jiu-jitsu you. He's a little bit of a problem.
Right on. Next up, heavyweight prospect and force of nature Francis Ngannou defeats Andrei Arlovsky via TKO punches first round.
Oh, God.
A little bit less than 2 minutes in. Launches Andrei Arlovsky into another orbit with like an uppercut or a hook
Oh, boy.
Just kept coming forward and bidding his time. Didn't really care much for Arlovsky's power or counters. And just walked him down. And had one thing in mind, which was destruction of Arlovsky's face. Your thoughts, Genya?
What can I say? What did we say to each other when this fight came out? We both,
we didn't really say it. We just looked at each other and just shook our heads like it was going to be a tough one.
I mean, we were both Arlovsky fans, you know, so it's a tough one. When the fight got announced, we were like,
Arlovsky was one of those guys we watched back when UFC was just getting up on its feet, early 2000s, like when we said pay-per-view.
This is going back to the theme of the last 3 fights. They're kind of taking like guys that have a name and giving it to somebody that's going to create a name off of them. It was obvious when the fight was announced, Francis was going to be a problem with Arlovsky. Arlovsky had a nice streak going, but he hasn't looked that impressive recently.
No, Arlovsky lost last 3 by knockout before this. He looked pretty bad in his last few fights. I love Arlovsky, but they gave him tough fights. Like they've used him like to touch on what we were saying. They've been using him as a stepping stone or the gatekeeper kind of guy for
Let's talk about
heavyweights to build their names off of.
Let's talk about Francis a little bit. He looked good though. I'll tell you what I thought about the fight. There's not a whole lot I have to add to it. Dema was pretty much spot on. He felt comfortable with whatever Andre was throwing at him. He controlled the octagon, and what I liked that Dema didn't touch on is he's got the power, but he doesn't go in there wild. He's very calculated striker. He takes his time. He looks for that shot. And that's going to be a problem. Apparently, he's wanting to fight Cain Velasquez next. What are your thoughts on Dema? Do you think that's the right choice? Or
man, if it's a healthy Cain Velasquez, that is probably the toughest matchup. I mean, credit to him for having the balls to call the toughest guy. Probably for him, Cain will have superior wrestling in the division and will definitely test any potential holes Francis has in his wrestling and grappling predominantly. I personally would like to see him fight like a Derek Lewis or like a Alistar Overeem, maybe even a JDS, and let Cain get in there with the big boys, because I think Cain is still top 3.
Good point, and I'm with you on that. I think that Francis, I mean, yes, he'll have a chance against anybody in that heavyweight division if we're honest with ourselves. But realistically, if I was his management, I would rather have a guy like Verdum, a guy like maybe like you said, Derek Lewis, maybe he's already beat a Curtis Blades, but I wouldn't reach that far up the totem pole yet. Not Cain Velasquez, and I don't think. I think styles make fights, and Cain Velasquez is a problem for anybody.
Head is off to him if he wants to do it. Let him do it. I was just Cain is one of those guys that we see him fight guys before of Francis' caliber and just cause kind of problems and issues, kind of like when he fought Cheat Congo back in the day. Cheat Congo, very accomplished striker, very powerful, athletic, explosive, would rock Cain, and Cain would just walk through that. And
how you pronounce his name again?
Who?
You just now.
Cheek? Cheat Congo?
Like butt cheek Congo.
Butt cheek Congo.
I always thought it was check.
Cheek.
Like
my pronunciation of names I'm not even going to go into
that. And it's fair because most people butcher our names.
Oh shit!
It's fair.
Boy, I ain't even going to start anywhere close to the ballpark. You say Dema Dmitri.
Well, when you're Russian, then butchering names is a part of everyday life because
we're Ukrainian. Before they start accusing us of hacking elections, I'm not Russian. We speak Russian. We happen to speak Russian. That is because of where we're from.
I would venture to say that we're probably the only Ukrainian MMA podcast. That probably separates us a little bit there. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, there you go. If you're looking for a niche, this might be the one where we're the Ukrainian English speakers, the only ones in the game doing it.
We'll speak English, though, because we literally have 0 listeners if we spoke Russian. Grant, we might have 10 now, but 10 is better than 0.
Our Russian would be rather poor.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce the next one, or should I?
Next fight. Man.
We
were at a co-main event.
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
We're kind of running through this card. But we're doing good because we're giving talking points about everyone.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, now we're in our co-main event for UFC on Fox 23, Shevchenko versus Pena. Whoa. This was something. This was Donald Cerrone in his 5th fight in probably 5 months. Exaggeration, but he fights almost monthly. He was taking on Jorge Masvidal. They were talking a lot of shit back and forth. Jorge was saying Donald's not very good. Donald thinks he's very good. So they were talking a lot of shit. And I'll be honest, I picked Donald. Didn't you pick him also, Dema?
No, I had Masvidal the whole way.
You did?
Come on. You don't remember me freaking out over this?
I don't.
No, because you weren't there. Yeah, when this whole shit went down, I freaked out. And I had money on Masvidal. I was very confident in Masvidal. I've been watching the build up to this fight for a long time. Low-key, for me, this was the main event. Respect to the ladies. But first, Cerrone is hella good. Probably one of the best combination strikers in UFC right now. Fights, no exaggeration, like 5 times a year. Against Masvidal, who is just a fucking animal. Who I always knew was really, really good. He just didn't have this kind of a standout moment in the UFC yet that we were waiting on. And in the build-up to this fight, man, he was just very confident. The way he handled himself. I watched Joey Diaz's podcast. He had him on, fellow Cuban. And George was very confident in the build up to this fight. Jorge, sorry. He was saying how he wanted this fight from the very beginning. He always thought he could beat Donald, and basically he kept saying how he had his number and was going to bet a lot of money on himself because he knew he was going to be an underdog coming out.
You heard he made a bet after the fight too, right?
We had it muted because we had some music on in the background, but I saw he was talking a whole lot, and then I saw you texted me something about 200K afterwards.
He bet Dana 200K, can't find a guy to beat him. Which is funny because Dana's not going to accept that bet, but
Conor McGregor-esque in his shit talk, Genya.
Yeah, what would you
I loved it. I loved the fight. Tough to see Donald take such a beating. That little bit, not a little bit, that mistake by Herb. We all make mistakes, but I don't think that should have continued past the first round, like a lot of people are going to say.
Let me tell you my thoughts on the fight real quick. I was thoroughly impressed with Jorge. Let me tell you a little bit about Jorge. I'm not very good with time frames, but when we first started watching Jorge, he was fighting guys in the street. He fought one of Kimbo Slice's proteges.
No,
in the street.
He was Kimbo Slice's protege.
Oh, God.
Yeah, something like that. And he fought very well, even back then for a street fighter. He had
very little training.
He had excellent footwork, great boxing, and during those unsanctioned backyard fights, he fought people like twice his size and made him look bad.
And now he's got probably about the same amount of pro fights as Cowboy, wouldn't you say? Pretty darn close.
I'll have to look it up, but he's a veteran. He's been in the game for a long time.
I think they're both at 30-some fights, which is impressive. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit fooled by Donald's recent streak because he's been blowing through guys. He's been really embarrassing cats. And his last fight with Matt Brown was tough. But other than that, he's been looking great at welterweight.
Took some shots there with Matt Brown. Yeah. But it's kind of becoming a trend. Against this, what makes him so good is a bit of his weakness. And what I perceive, he fights a lot, even through injuries. I think during his last interview with Luke Thomas, he said, Luke asked him, how are you able to fight so frequently? To which Donald replied, essentially, I lie to the doctors. I say I'm fine when they ask me if I have anything that bothers me, injury-wise.
He said that?
Yeah, he said that. And we kind of saw him on a streak before he fought, I believe, Nate Diaz. And Nate came out and kind of didn't give in to Donald's pressure and was able to take the shots, and then took the fight over and kind of handled him. And kind of in a similar fashion, Donald Cerrone fought already, 4 times this year?
I'd have to check the stat. Hold on, I got the site right in front of me. Let me pull it up.
Regardless, went ahead, impressive showing. But again, fought a frequent amount of times. Took on a very tough Jorge Masvidal and just kind of seemed to falter.
You want his fights in 2016 or because 2017 this was it? He had 4 fights in 2016.
Yeah, but so close together. You see what I'm saying? Still.
Yes, it was a span of February 21st, 2016 through January 28th, 2017. He had 5 fights. So what's that, about a year's time, like you said, 5 fights?
So yeah, within a year's period, he definitely fought 5 times.
My co-host was actually spot on with his estimation of 5 times earlier.
And I think it's largely because I do listen to other podcasts and I do pick up little bits of information like that. It's not because I sat there and looked it up and did the research. Yeah. Well, I guess I kind of did. But anyways, fuck it.
Well, we did now. But, Demo, do you think that plays a role? Do you think him fighting so much, or do you think he just fought into the wrong cat? He just ran into the wrong dude.
Who am I to say? It's for Donald to know. But if I had to make an educated guess, fighting so much and partially his last fight being so close to this one and so tough potentially, definitely played a part.
Yeah, I think it played a part, but I think at the end of the day, and some of you listeners might not like this, I think Jorge's just better. I think he hasn't got the same kind of clout, the same kind of backing Donald's gotten in the UFC.
True.
But I think he could be just as popular.
Yeah, I don't want to take away anything from Jorge Masvidal. I think he might actually have better boxing. The way he looked behind his jab and behind his straight punches was really, really awesome. He said set up the kicks really well with the jab, and he was very persistent on top of being accurate. Everything combined eventually made Donald break.
And in our news segment, we'll talk a little bit more about Dana White's quote. But we'll talk about the situation here.
What's the new segment? Our news and current events after we go over the next card?
Yeah, we're going to go over the next card, and then we'll go into news.
All right, so really quickly, Valentino. Not really quickly, but let's do Valentino.
Yeah, but before that, I kind of want to talk about the end of the round.
All right,
I was going to ask you a question. You see?
All right, go ahead. It's all good.
We're doing good.
Word.
All right. And then we had a situation at the end of that round there. That was some weird stuff. Tell me a little bit about it, dude.
Are you round 1?
Yeah, round
Okay.
one, Masvidal Cerrone. It looked like he. Hold on, let me try to explain this to the viewers. Set it up so you could tell your opinion on it. It looked like Masvidal. Correct me if I'm wrong. Almost had him finished.
Okay, I freaked out initially after the first round because I thought Herb Dean was waving the fight off. I thought that was it.
And it looked like that.
And then the next thing after I looked back at the TV after I was finished freaking out was Donald Cerrone was in his corner, looking pretty out of it, getting corner advice from Greg Jackson and them. And I was like, wait, that wasn't the end of the fight?
I thought the same thing as you, man. I thought he waved the fight, and then he's getting advice from his corner. We'll get into this a little bit more about the news because this was kind of a interesting little...
A little messed up to see him take extra punishment. I don't think it needed to happen, but a mistake is a mistake. And Donald, to his credit, went back in there and was more composed than I thought he would be after taking, being knocked down. And essentially flash knocked out, almost.
How do you feel about Donald's corner sending him out there for the second round? Do you think they should have?
I think Greg Jackson is very keenly aware of the kind of fighter that Donald is. He knows it's very tough, and I think ultimately Donald probably wanted to have that extra chance to go out there and fight. Now, is that good for his health? Probably not, but dude is a prize fighter. He fights 5 times a year, knowingly lies to his doctors and tells them he's fine when he takes on these fights.
Isn't that illegal?
It's kind of fucked up, but...
Isn't that illegal, though? Like, because people gamble on these events... If you tell your doctor you're fine, the commission okays you because that doctor tells you you're fine. Aren't you? There's a law about that. Isn't that like?
Dude, I'm not a lawyer, but it does seem like this might be something to that people might get in trouble for. Cain Velasquez was essentially saying he's fine. Then he went out and said his back was all fucked up.
In an interview.
A fight didn't happen as a result of that. So,
yeah,
you should definitely be careful what you say on a public platform.
Yeah, especially if you want to hide it like Donald or Cain and fight.
Because I'm not gonna lie when I say I heard Donald say I lie to doctors and tell them I'm fine when I take these fights. I'm going to be lying when I say I don't take that into consideration when I place bets and put some money on Jorge Masvidal. I'm like, dude fought so much. Jorge Masvidal is a very, very tough opponent. He also is a unreasonable underdog, in my opinion, going up against Donald. So having, that bit of information will influence gambling.
Yeah.
But it's a gray zone. I'm not a lawyer. I can't speak on it.
And in hindsight, I kind of missed the boat with that one because Masvidal, he was the perfect style to give Cerrone problems. He's got the better, slicker boxing. He can take punishment.
He's got good head movement. He's got hella chin. Donald really wasn't going after his head so much. He kept landing to his body. Yeah. And Masvidal showed in the fight that he could take body shots and didn't really seem to faze him. He was taunting him the whole time.
All right, back to I'm gonna set this up for. I'm pretty sure most of our listeners actually watched the fight because I don't know why the heck you'd be listening to me and Dema if you weren't avid MMA fans to begin with,
or why would you be listening to us to begin with.
Exactly.
I'm just joking. This is the kind of self-deprecating humor you're going to run into a lot, especially from me, maybe.
It's true. But I'm going to set this up a little bit for the viewers. Donald's in his corner, and he's not there.
Donald is looking into outer space.
He just got knocked the fuck out.
Where Andrei Arlovsky is somewhere.
Like Herb Dean, even Dana White later said, like, hey, I think Herb kind of botched it a little bit.
Yeah, he did. At the post fight. Yeah.
Yeah, typically I don't believe I don't like Dana White very much with what he has to say because he's a promotions guy. He's a liar. You know what I mean? But in this case, I think he's right, man. I think he kind of botched it. I think the fight was over. Cowboy came, and my issue with it is like you can't blame the commission. You can't blame the fighter. You can't blame the ref solely. Some of that, responsibility shoulders with the coaching. I mean, Greg Jackson's sitting there talking to the guy, and he knows he's not there.
But Herb is still one of the best referees out there. Everyone has an off night. Sucks to see Donald get knocked out twice. But I'm not upset about the stoppage in the second, even though, some people are complaining it's a standing stoppage.
Some people have problems with the stoppage.
Knuckleheads on the internet.
Do they hate Donald or something? I mean, Donald, he was
just people in general look overstanding, but I'm not at all in that camp of people. Like, he took enough punches.
You can't let a guy take that much punishment and just continue taking punishment. Eventually,
I agree with you.
Eventually, you got to step in there and save the guy, live to fight another day.
Maybe same reason Denver kind of hated, didn't want to see that, and they booed it a little bit because he's a hometown guy.
Not gonna lie, we can probably do a podcast on this one fight alone.
Man, yeah, for real.
So, are you ready?
Let's move on to the main event. What a fucking impressive showing from Valentina Shevchenko defeats Juliana Pena. Second round submission armbar. Slick fight. Juliana Pena does what she, what we kind of expected. Closes in the distance, plays the clinch game really well. Valentina stays composed, is able to show some good judo, and her time shows impeccable timing. Was the first round she gets her inside control.
Yeah, let me excuse my language, but wow, what the fuck? Did you expect that?
Excuse your language, I've been cussing the whole time.
Is this one of those podcasts we could cuss on? I think so.
I don't give a fuck.
It's adult.
It's adult.
It's adult.
If you're getting elbowed in the face and kicked with your shin to your head, a little bit of cuss words isn't gonna ruin your innocence in that regard.
Did anybody expect the finish to be that?
No, that's a talking point within a lot of MMA reporting community. The fact that her grappling looked to be such high level, where a lot of people who favored Valentina were expecting her to win, and now kind of a striker's bout.
Yeah, I agree. I'm starting to really enjoy Valentina. She's come in there now, and she's outboxed Holly, which she's outboxed multiple-time boxing champion.
16-time. What was it? What?
Something like that. I don't keep up with that because sometimes those belts are like getting like candy from the candy machine.
But still.
But you're right.
The women's who's who of boxing. She defeats in stand up.
She's got like a 32-2 record. She's no joke in boxing. And and Valentina went in there and dominated her, standing up for 5 rounds. I mean, just looked great. And this time she came in, and Pena is known as a grappler. Like, before this fight, if you were to get people's predictions on it, hell, if we would have given a prediction, we would have told you if it was a submission, it would probably be Pena, and Valentina was going to win on the feet. Would that be accurate?
To go back on the Holly fight, a lot of people forget, or they might not know, but Valentina has been kickboxing and doing Muay Thai for essentially as long as Holly has been boxing. And she was very successful in that realm, essentially, but she started out doing MMA when it wasn't so popular, then chose to focus in Muay Thai because that was a better route. There was more competition in that field for her. And then once MMA in 2010s, women's MMA went back on the map, she was able to quickly transition back and implement her striking so well in mixed martial arts. But to go back to the win, armbar, nobody expected it. Hella impressive. She's getting better and better with every fight.
Sorry, I wanted to add something that I saw on Wikipedia the other day. Yeah, something I kind of want to add to what Dema was saying. This is an interesting gal. I mean, just have a look at all her accomplishments. I don't know if I'm going to read them all off, but
I will do it real quick. Second Dan, that's second degree black belt Taekwondo, international master of sports in Muay Thai, master of sports in boxing, kickboxing, Taekwondo, black belt and master of sport in judo. So yeah, black belt and master of sport in judo. You know, a lot of people give judo shit, but you know, it translates well.
Those
in MMA,
trips, D.
depending on how
Those trips that she was using on Juliana.
not even the trips. It gives her a superior sense of timing.
But like, no, this girl's supremely talented. I mean,
And Juliana Pena is no joke. She made a lot of people look bad. Was on a tear recently.
yeah.
Has won her last 4 fights. Kat Zingano, Jessica Ai, Milana Dudieva, and Jessica Rokosi. The 2 last ones not so well known, but she did manage to finish them with both in the first round, and pretty much unanimously fought to beat Jessica Ai and Kat Zingano decisively.
well, let's go over her fights in the UFC because I've watched all of them. I'm pretty sure you have too. Did you catch her first one with Kaufman? If you remember at the time, Kaufman was no slouch, man. She was top 5. She was former Strikeforce champ, and this girl but we didn't know about her Muay Thai history, you know, as much as we do now. Valentina, no, she started versus Sarah. She came in on a late replacement, and she beat her in the wrestling. Sarah Kaufman's a wrestler. She beat her in the wrestling. She came in. Her next fight after that, she fought who? The UFC champ. She fought the UFC champ. Do you remember that fight? I'll let you introduce this fight to the listeners.
Spaced out. Can you?
Sure, I'll introduce it a little bit. Her next fight was against Amanda Nunes. Amanda came in. This fight I don't remember as well. I remember Amanda won pretty decisively the first 2 rounds. Amanda brought a pace that Shevchenko wasn't used to. I don't think has ever seen in her MMA career. By the 3rd round, Amanda started fading, and Shevchenko clearly won the 3rd round.
I just I watched the fight. I remember it, but I don't remember it well enough to speak on it in great detail. But most of her fights, she starts out really, really aggressively, kind of fades towards the end of the fight, and that's kind of how that one played out. It will be...
this is going to be a 5-round fight, Dema.
It will be a lot more interesting to see, considering this will be a longer fight. I think both of them have gotten better. It might be that Valentina has gotten a little bit better overall since both ladies have fought. But very compelling matchup to me. I'm excited to see that one.
I'm not going to lie, man.
Women's MMA have come such a long way from... Shit, even Ronda Rousey days. Holy shit.
There used to be a point where, like, I'd see a female fight on a card, and I'd be like, oh, there's another female fight. Now I'm like, oh, man, I can't wait to see these gals.
And they finally, I feel like women's MMA has finally hit the transition to where they have gone from being like, I'm a judo specialist, wrestling specialist, to finally we're seeing the first breed of complete mixed martial artists.
Yeah, it's no longer like you're right, and Dema was a big proponent on this. That basically, when the UFC first started, we had specialist versus specialist fights.
Like your jiu-jitsu guy is fighting your kickboxing guy, or your sumo is going to go ahead and fight, karate.
Exactly.
Or a wrestler will...
And that was the purpose.
Yeah.
The purpose was can my discipline beat yours? But then guys got better. It started with Vitor Belfort, Juicehead.
But yeah, it started with these guys, the hybrids, that were able to put
that knew three things.
More than one discipline together and excel, be better than the one-dimensional guy who's who's really, really good at just one aspect of the fighting game.
Exactly. Like Amanda Nunes is probably her biggest skill is that she's well-rounded. She's probably the most well-rounded female.
Well-rounded, very powerful, good combination striker. She's got a lot of... but in those aspects, this is where Valentina will cancel her out in a lot of these aspects. Valentina's hella good at striking too. She's quick. She's gonna be able to avoid some of this power initially. And Amanda Nunes's key to victory. I hate to use that fucking phrase. Key to victory.
Keys to victory
will be energy management. She can't go out and blow her wad in the first 2 rounds because she's gonna get pieced up.
That's how she fights. She's gonna do that, Dema. That's how she fights.
I feel like if she can't get away without if she can't get away with ending the fight in the first round, she needs to go fall back and play more conservatively because otherwise it's not going to be a good night for her. The later rounds, she might end up losing.
Yeah.
She's not efficient.
Personally, I'm trying to, out of my memory space, I'm trying to throw away their first fight. Because, like, I really don't think it's going to have a bearing on this fight. Like, I think Shevchenko is going to come with a completely different strategy. And I might be biased as well as you. Because, she's Russian-born gal, but trains out of Peru, Lima.
Kyrgyz, I believe Ukrainian parents in Kyrgyz.
And she's just got an interesting story. She's a cool gal. But, so I might be a little biased, but I just think that she's going to be a lot more prepared for Amanda this time around. I think that was part of the weird, cocky clapping after Amanda did her shit talk and dance.
Supremely confident. Yeah, I'm loving it. That's part of what intrigues me so much about this fight.
You can feel the confidence from her a little bit.
Very good matchup.
Yeah, and I love Amanda too. I mean, what can you say? What is this?
I'm just pointing out we should probably move on into the next week. But
cool.
Congratulations to homegirl, literally home.
Yeah.
Fellow Slav, Valentina Shevchenko.
A lot of these winners, especially the last 4 fights we named, we're really excited to see what they do moving forward. So, good card overall, wouldn't you say?
Awesome card. A bit of a lackluster preliminary card, but you can't win them all.
Yeah,
decisions are part of the game.
But if you're gonna watch one of the prelims, watch Bobby Nash versus Legion Ling, because my God, they're just clobbering each other. That was a fun fight.
And the first round, Darce choke. That was pretty impressive. Up next, UFC Fight Night: Bermudez versus Korean Zombie. This is kind of going to be a low key card. Really looking forward to the main event. The return of Korean Zombie. He's back from doing his military service in Korea. Quickly, top to bottom, let's go over this main event. Go ahead, Genya.
I kind of just wanted to introduce, me and Dema are going to be going over this next card a little bit for you. I did want to kind of preface it with some of these guys we don't know the best, so we're not going to pretend to know them.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go top down, because we can get a lot of, we can talk a lot about the guys that are, more well-known.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of these guys like Volkan Ozdemir and Marcel Fortuna, we'll get to know some over the next couple UFCs. Or not the next couple, excuse me, but of their next couple fights in the UFC.
Real talk. Let's top to bottom?
Yeah, do you want to start from the bottom or the top? Let's start from the prelims, I think, because...
We'll
fly through them, but
all right.
It'll like you can't go from like good to boring. You gotta go from boring to good, you know.
All right, Good point. Point well taken. Preliminary card on Fight Pass. We have Daniel Jolly versus Khalil Roundtree.
Some of these will just name.
Oh man,
shit,
made me crack up. But at least with Khalil, I might have a little bit to say about Khalil. Khalil didn't look too impressive. He's coming out of I think one of the more recent Ultimate Fighters. Light heavyweight? Yeah, light heavyweight.
The UFC really wants to keep that guy, man.
They must like his mustache. He's got pretty hip mustache.
Speaking of keeping people, let me share one of Dema's quotes. Dema the other day, he texted me after the fight. He's like, "Would Ronda Rousey be a great matchup for Pena?"
Man, give it a break. She'd be a good...
And I want him to give up this hoop dream of Ronda Rousey, man. The girl's done. I don't think she'll be back, but he does have a point.
Entirely her decision. First of all, if she wants to come back, if she doesn't, I respect that.
True.
I want to see her come back. I'm a fan.
He was a huge fan.
This is where I'm coming from. You know, I have a judo background. I've competed a little bit. I fucking love how she was able to come in this age of specialists and just completely impose her judo game. Textbook judo throws from the hip, arm bars, fucking all about that shit. But yeah, if she doesn't fight again, I mean, that's her decision. If she doesn't want to do it, perfectly fine with it. I want to see her fight. If she comes back to fight, I think Juliana Pena would be a good matchup for her. Both coming off of a loss, would be kind of evenly matched. Pena just lost by armbar. You know, there are some weaknesses there that Ronda can play well against. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I like to pick fun at you, but at the same time, I brought this up legitimately because I thought she made a good point. If she does ever decide to put on the gloves again,
I'm being a fanboy and a little bit of a fantasy matchmaker here.
Why not fight a girl like Pena that doesn't offer a lot in the striking department?
And Pena talked a lot of smack. You know, Pena talks a lot of smack about everyone. But
you know, she Miss Piggy and stuff.
Oh man, you know they go back the whole season of Tough. She didn't like her. She didn't like her. The whole catty shit. I think the build up will be fun to that fight. It will sell.
But back to Khalil Roundtree, Daniel Jolly. I don't know much about Daniel.
Shut up, Mom. Khalil fucking cracked me up in his debut.
That was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
Shut
him.
Up,
his
Mom
moms was yelling at him like, "Come on, Khalil."
But realistically, Khalil, he's not UFC quality, and we just don't know much about Daniel Jolly besides he lost to a fucking horse in Misha Serkinov in his first fight.
Based on Khalil's past performances, I give this to Daniel Jolly.
Have you seen Daniel Jolly?
Never. But let's see what happens.
Because the UFC's willing to put him in there, he'll probably beat Khalil. I hear you.
Everybody probably beat Khalil that he fought.
I wouldn't take betting advice like that, but...
Oh, this is not betting advice.
No,
if I had to... I'll leave this one alone.
Actually, I think the gambling lines aren't out as of right now. So let me double check real quick.
All right, real quickly, Alex Morano, Nico Price. Don't know much about either of the guys. Alex Morano actually has a Wikipedia page.
Actually, no. That's a good
60,
one. I have
13-3.
I have something to add about that one. Let me see the Bovada though.
Alex Morano on somewhat of a winning streak. Who? No, she's not. He won last 7 fights.
They got some bet lines up. Do they have all of them?
They don't have prelims yet.
No, they got the main card though, so that we could actually do that.
Okay, cool.
All right, so the only ones that we're gonna get into betting lines with are the ones on the main card.
The ones that they have lines out for, actually.
Yeah.
So Alex Morano looking really good against the guy I don't know much about, Nico Price. Do you know anything about Nico?
Nico Price? Yeah, he's had one fight in the UFC. Brandon Thatch. He was the guy that came in and just kind of made a fool of Thatch real quick. Big, strong.
Oh, really?
Big, strong, kind of scary guy. I really don't know what his skills are like because Brandon Thatch has been known as a guy to beat himself. Alex Moreno is now 2-0 in the UFC.
And 7-0 in his last 7 fights.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
He's impressed.
Riding a hell of a win streak.
He beat Kyle Noak, and then he beat Montessori, and before that he beat Krantz and Valdir Araujo. I want to say his name. He used to be in the UFC also. So he's beat 4 quality opponents.
Man, I'm getting myself hyped up for this fight. This is one I had nothing as far as knowledge.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about. Looking at both of these guys' records.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
He's
for UFC Fight Pass.
He's impressive, Moreno, and listen to interviews. If you guys get a chance, I'll try to hustle it up a little bit. But if you guys get a chance to listen to some Alex Moreno interviews, he's a real smart guy. I think you'll really enjoy his interviews. Next fight, Miss Beck Rawlings versus Tisha Torres.
Right on.
Weird matchup. I feel Tisha's a better opponent than Paige Van Zandt was, and Paige Van Zandt just beat Beck. Am I missing something?
Beck has been around for a while. She might unfortunately fall into the category of where they use her as a bit of a stepping stone, or kind of feed her to the into the meat grinder. But Tisha Torres, always tough. Tough matchup for Beck.
But Beck thinks she's got hands, and from my view, I'd have to disagree with her. But it's gonna be karate versus boxing, like traditional boxing from Beck and karate style from Tisha.
And Tisha's got hands. What too? If I can remember.
Tisha's quick. Tisha's quick, solid wrestling, and I just think she's gonna outpoint Beck. I don't think she's really gonna hurt her at any point in the fight, like to where it's like, whoa, look at that punch. But she's gonna wear her out and win a decision, I believe.
A big fight for women's strawweight. Both named fighters, recognizable.
Yeah, they're both working their way up, though.
Yep,
they're working their way up. Next fight, also kind of a weird matchup. Chris, probably going to butcher this, Gruchmaker versus Chaz Skelly, who he looked amazing in his last fight, man. He ran across the ring or did some like Superman shit to Maximo Blanco.
Yeah. I don't know much about Chris Grutzemacher. But, it looks like a fight they might be giving Chaz Kelly. Looks like one of those guys that they're slowly looking to build.
It was an anaconda choke in 19 seconds. Chaz Kelly pulled off on Maximo Blanco.
Looked impressive in his last performance.
Yeah, to say the least. But Chris, I watched him a little bit on the season of Tough he was on. And I watched him. His record is a little bit deceiving because he's beaten a lot of cans, taxi driver types. But in reality, he's a solid fighter. What they're both skilled at is the same things. They're both good, solid wrestlers. They're good at stalling the fights and getting in advantageous positions. I personally think Chaz Skelly's a little bit better scrambler, and that's what's going to win him the fight.
Right on. I'm looking at a card that had Ricardo Ramos and Michinori Tanaka before the fight that you just mentioned, but that's also on there, right?
Ramos fought in the UFC already? Ricardo Lucas Ramos? Is that what you're talking about?
And Michinori Tanaka?
Yeah, I've seen Tanaka fight. I've never seen this guy. I know he fought a guy like outside of the UFC. That's a pretty big name, Manny Vasquez. He lost that fight, but that belt has been kind of passed around that organization. What is it, RFA or I want to say it's RFA. No, Legacy.
Tanaka from Tough.
Tanaka. Let me.
Where's this guy from?
Let me see Tanaka real quick.
I mean,
Tanaka
from Japan, obviously.
Tanaka just had that real war with Ronnie Yaya.
In Fight Night 95.
He won some grappling against Yaya, which I haven't seen before from really a Japanese guy, to be honest. But from another MMA guy in that division, Ronnie, I would argue is the best jiu-jitsu guy in that weight class. Wouldn't you agree? It would be hard to argue otherwise.
I don't know much about Ronnie Yaya, best jiu-jitsu in the division. What division is this?
Let me see.
My knowledge of MMA is supreme.
This is the 135 division.
Featherweights, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, bantamweights.
135 is
okay.
Bantamweight, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is the bantamweights. But Ronnie Yaya, if you want to argue he doesn't have the best jiu-jitsu, he's easily top 3 in that division. You can't argue that.
Fair enough.
You know, so, but this guy Tanaka wrestled around with him there on the ground, man. He did pretty good.
Not gonna lie, don't know much about these two guys.
Me neither.
As well as for the next fight in the ever so shallow heavyweight division, we have Adam Milstead and Curtis Blades. Do you know anything about these two?
Two up and
heavyweights?
Two up and comers. Milstead looked real good. It was one UFC fight. He fought kind of out of shape guy. I don't remember the guy's name too well, but Milstead looked like a good. I think he's a big prospect, man. He was one of the guys UFC were like salivating at getting, and he looked the part in his first fight. Curtis Blades.
Sorry to interrupt. Kind of a fighting style or background does he have?
I think he's a wrestler.
Wrestling,
I think he's a little bit of a poor man's Justin Gaethje at 205.
Okay.
If I have to describe it, like
unnecessarily reckless, scrappy.
He's a wrestler that's scrappy and has a good straight.
Okay.
Curtis Blades, if you remember, was the guy. He fought old Francis we were talking about in his first UFC fight, and he didn't look terrible, but he lost. He lost by TKO after the second round.
Not taking anything away.
But looking back on it, he gave Francis his toughest fight in the UFC so far. And he looked great versus Cody East. He TKO'd him with elbows, and he big boyed Cody East, who's not a bad, pretty skilled heavyweight.
I feel like if we keep recording these podcasts, I'm hyping myself. The more we're talking about these, and the more I'm doing a little bit of this research, and I'm finding out about these fighters that are going to be fighting way low in the prelims card. I'm kind of getting myself excited for these fights. The more I find out about, the more I piece it together, who's who. Because usually I kind of glance over these. Some of them I'll go ahead and miss. But I have a feeling the more we do this, the more prelim cards I'm going to be watching.
Oh, yeah, because you want to know a little bit about what you're talking about there. But, yeah, man, I'm expecting...
You fuck. Savage.
That would be an outtake. But,
I'm not taking out shit. This is going to end up being a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast with bong rips and outtakes from piss and everything.
Oh, Lord. But
I like it, though. I like this format better. The more you loosen up, the less formal this becomes.
The less formal, the more it feels like our fans are listening to us. And the more they realize we're kind of buffoons like them. But, honestly, though, I'm expecting a good fight between Milstead and Blades. I think whoever's going to win that fight is a solid up-and-comer. And it's not one that should be missed. You ready to move on to the next fight?
Heavyweights needs more prospects. I want to catch it. Heavyweights are always...
Sorry, big asshole. Light heavyweight.
What?
They're light heavyweights.
Who?
Actually, wait.
No.
You're right, because... No, they're light heavyweights. Cause
they are?
Curtis went down after our fight.
We're looking at two different formats. I have this card up on Wikipedia. You have yours up on ShareDog.
And it says heavyweight.
Yours might be more accurate.
Oh, no. You're right. Because this fucker fought a heavyweight. Yeah, excuse me.
Okay, this is heavyweight.
This time I'm mistaken. This is a heavyweight fight.
All good. Both heavyweights and light heavyweight divisions are lacking.
Mm-hmm.
More so light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Then heavyweight. But anyways, like big guys fighting. There's something intriguing about that. They're fucking big as shit.
It's been that way always. People like to see the big guys fight. Next fight we're looking at.
This is main card. Start.
This is but I thought the main card started with Anthony Hamilton. Five fights, right?
6 on mine. It says mine starts with Angela Hill and Jessica Andrade.
I like it because this deserves to be on the main card. I mean,
fuck yeah.
First of all, I think has the gambling line came out? Yeah, it has on it.
Okay, so this is main card. I think they might have gambling lines up.
Yeah, actually, I have it up right now. Angela Hill is plus 265. Jessica Andrade minus 350. I think it's a fair betting line because Jessica Andrade has been on a tear. I think people are sleeping on Angela a little bit because she had a rough go at it her first go around in the UFC.
Yeah, but face it, they threw her to the wolves. She was very green. Showed a lot of promise, but ultimately had some big holes to fill. Invicta was the right move. Kind of gave her that development period that she needed a lot to make her a little bit more well-rounded. Kind of get better at stifling takedowns and impose her striking, which is her strength.
Yeah, she kind of needed that. I mean, it's to nobody's fault that she didn't have success in the UFC. She got put in there with some real badass girls.
Angela Hill, I like her in this fight. Both, like you said, Jessica Andrade was on a tear. Angela Hill, is on the up and up from Invicta. Kind of had a little bit more time to practice since they were unable to license her.
Yeah.
What was all of that shenanigans about?
Well, it was the same thing that the Brock Lesnar.
I remember you're going from one organization to another. There has to be like a 4-month testing period.
Yeah, but she was unique because she got cut from the UFC because she was losing. So upon her return, they should have planned that out. Like if a gal like that has a chance to come back, why not keep her on the testing list?
I think it's because new rules. They're just getting with the program. They kind of missed the train on that one. They'll be better at timing these things moving in the future. But
this fight, I believe it's the bet line's a little bit off, man. I think it's a little bit closer to 50-50. If I was going to place a bet on those odds right now, I would put a couple units on Angela Hill, just because of the value. I like both girls' games a lot, but I don't think Angela Hill's plus 200 underdog anymore. I think she's a different fighter coming in this time. But I also think Jessica Andrade is a real problem for anybody in that division.
And a real test for Angela Overkill Hill, remaking her UFC debut.
Yeah, and good luck to her. I mean, she
I like her. Both strikers. This is going to be an exciting fight for a women's division. I like it. Another moving ahead, Anthony Hamilton and Marcel Fortuna at heavyweight. Don't know much about Marcel Fortuna, one of those guys we mentioned as
don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Don't knows. Anything to add as far as Anthony Hamilton?
He lost pretty bad to Francis last time out, but it's kind of hard to fight Francis.
Is this the trend for this card? Kind of like guys that lost to Francis.
Well, I guess so, man. I guess so.
Both heavyweights on this card have lost to Francis.
Yeah, they both lost to Francis, and there's no shame in losing to Francis, man. But I think Anthony Hamilton's pretty good, actually. I like his strength. I like that he's under Greg Jackson. He's got a good game plan. I don't think he's very athletic, but does it matter that much at heavyweight?
No. At least that's probably one of the least divisions where something like that would matter.
I guess it matters when you got to fight a guy like Francis.
Or Kane, yeah, when you get an upper echelon.
Because we saw what happened to Anthony Hamilton, just grabbed his arm and fucking...
Oh my god.
what was that move he put him in again? He grabbed his arm and did like a key lock, I believe.
It was like a Kimura.
I thought it was a key lock where if he didn't tap, his arm would snap.
It looked like he grabbed him from the
It
back.
was a Kimura. It was the same move Frank Mir caught.
But it's one of those. It's one of those Kimuras where people can grab standing and like make it into a Kimura takedown. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was rough.
And if I can be honest, on the show, Dema is kind of the move expert. He's actually, participated in judo quite heavily and a little bit of jiu-jitsu.
No, very limited. Don't give me any more accolades than I deserve.
But
I have no black belt, my friend.
My skills are limited to watching from the start. But can we move on that fight? I don't really have a lot to add.
Speaking of fighters from Greg Jackson, wait, is OSP from Jackson's?
No.
Oh,
OSP's good.
I take that back. Never mind.
He's got his own thing going on.
Moving into another rather shallow division, that is light heavyweight. Ovince St. Preux is fighting again another unwell-known fighter, Volkan Izdemir. Sounds Slavic.
He's had some success in outside organizations. Nickname Kazan.
What? Nickname Kazan?
His nickname is Kazan.
Oh, man.
This is a fancy one. But the Vulcan, from what I understand, is not a bad fighter. It should be a good fight. But Ovince is... He seemed to be a little bit different echelon than a newcomer to the UFC. I think UFC is trying to
give OSP a little bit of a break here.
Mm-hmm. And the line kind of goes by that. It's minus 275 OSP plus 215 Vulcan. Kind of what I thought it would be.
Again, not much here to go off. What's Vulcan's record? Do you have it on there?
No, but I remember it was like 12-1.
12-1. Ugh.
12-1.
He comes from Europe somewhere, yeah?
Yeah, he's fought in like the CFAs of the world or the RFAs, okay. Like some of these organizations. He's fought on the Russian cards a couple times.
I got you.
He travels. He's one of those traveling fighters. I forgot to. I'm going to quickly throw in the Anthony Hamilton Marcel Fortuna betting line is minus 170 plus 140. I would agree. I bet Dema would agree rather that we don't know enough to tell you any gambling advice.
Yeah, these two fights. Yeah. Unless you know something we don't, stay away.
I'm gonna.
OSP and Anthony Hamilton probably are the safe bets as they are the well-known names, and UFC seems to be kind of favoring them with these matchups.
I don't think Hamilton's not an exciting fighter, and from what I understand, Fortuna is a pretty big prospect. I don't think that's a guarantee, but
well, there you have it. You know more than I do.
OSP, I think they want him to rebound. This is just my personal opinion. I think they want OSP back in the limelight because he's big, scary. Gets the fans going.
Mm-hmm.
They like
French Canadian.
They like guys like that. Next fight. Are you ready for the next fight, or should I stay on OSP a minute? Okay.
It's all good. Abel Trujillo versus James Vick over here, lightweight.
Even money, and I think it should be.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let me look into James Vick's most recent.
Look, I was looking at Abel Trujillo's because I'm trying to figure out who the heck I'm going to bet on in this one, I
mean, Vick, virtually undefeated until he fought Daniel Bariush, got knocked out really quickly in kind of like this flash knockout.
Yes,
anyone can get clipped.
But Dariush is a bad dude, man. Underrated.
And Dariush is a bad dude.
He's a bad man. He'd beat either one of these guys. So I don't place a lot of stock in that. But Abel, what surprised me is I looked at Abel's wins and losses. He's like 15-5. But like he's literally in his career. I found this real interesting. He's beaten everybody he should beat. Everybody that was supposed to beat him has beat him. So, like, the question in this fight is he supposed to beat James Vick?
And that's a pretty interesting question. Compelling matchup. I like it. Some notable wins from Vick. He choked out Jake Matthews, guillotine choke. Also guillotine on Ramsey Nijam back in 2013. So definitely some grappling savvy.
Mm-hmm.
One performance of the night against with that guillotine on Jake Matthews. Even money. Let me over here look at Trujillo.
Yeah,
real quick.
I would. I'm leaning a little bit towards Vic in this fight.
Just younger.
Just because I think he's getting better at a more rapid pace. But like I said, Abel doesn't beat himself. But what I did see about Abel is, he's a wrestler. Like, he came out as a wrestler, but he's gotten beat. He's gotten beat in his own discipline by a number of guys. So, like, if it says under the guy's name, like, hey, Abel Trujillo, wrestler, does that mean that I need to think that he's going to out-wrestle whoever he's going to fight? Because I don't think he's going to out-wrestle James Vick. And I think that's going to create problems for him because James Vick is a long, lanky dude, and he's going to get in there. And I think at even money, I would take James Vick, personally. Any predictions, Dema?
I would stay away from this one. I mean, it's in my eyes, this one is dead even. Abel's losses are to Tony and Khabib, the guys that are literally fighting for number one spot in the division.
Like I said, the guys he should have lost to.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Gleison Tebow, but Tebow was juiced to the gills. He got popped in that fight, which was
you up, man.
Which was overturned. What? I don't know what you're talking about.
You'll edit that part out.
But yeah, he lost. He lost to really good guys, except for very, very early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
But early in the career, you're a different fighter.
Yeah.
So even money for me, this is a compelling fight. Both guys are very grappling savvy. They might cancel each other out, and this may be a boring decision win for somebody. But that's part of what makes the sport fun. Sometimes you're gonna get a flashy knockout. Sometimes both guys are so good at one aspect that they both cancel each other out, and this might turn into like a sloppy stand-up fight. Toss up for me. I don't have a prediction here.
And I've noticed that your way of picking fights and gambling seems to, like, for our listeners that are also gamblers, seems to be more effective. I seem to have a problem staying away from fights, and some fights are just really hard to call. And I agree with you on that. So one like that, maybe staying away with it would also be the right call.
I also look at things like weigh-ins. So it would be helpful if you want to catch those. If I had to make a call, and I'm not going to bet any money on this, I would put money on James Vick. He's an up-and-comer. Yeah. Only got knocked out because he got clipped by somebody really good. And Abel has kind of been around longer, maybe more wear and tear on his body. Again, like you said, if he doesn't beat himself...
Did he get knocked out? Was it on the ground catching punches? Was that how it was?
I don't remember. But the results say KO instead of TKO, and usually that means somebody gets caught on the feet.
I remember. And Dariush he's not great standing, but he's underrated. That's for sure, standing up. He's got better stand-up than he gets credit for.
So one to look out for. Moving on, co-main event, Alexa Grasso versus Felice Herrig.
Another intriguing fight, man. Isn't Herrig... Didn't she have an impressive win in her last one?
Herrig, I think, submitted somebody.
Oh, but the girl's not looking great. Yeah, Kaylin Kern.
Yeah, she choked out Kaylin Kern in his last... Before that, lost to Paige by decision. Yeah, she's been kind of up and down. Lost a decision to Tisha, won armbar against Lisa Ellis.
I'm not gonna lie.
Lost decision to Paige, and then again won a submission.
UFC wants to push Alexa Grasso. I mean, she's beautiful. 2, she's Mexican.
But they're kind of, they both kind of have that same thing going for them. I agree. Alexa Grasso
Yeah,
is more on the up and up.
Grosso's got the skills. And before, I don't mean to cut you off, but wouldn't you agree that this is kind of, wouldn't you agree that this is kind of similar to a lot of the first fights where they're kind of using the name Felice Herrig to build Alexa Grasso?
Yeah, and in this case, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think Felice is pretty established, and Alexa Grasso is on the up and up. Only 9 fights.
Good stand-up, though. Confident in there.
Very good fight.
She looked great.
IQ.
She looked great in her first fight. I think she's only going to look better.
But she has not fought anybody on that level. Looking at her record...
Inua's nasty. That girl's good.
Is Inoue related to Henson by any chance?
That's the girl that started professionally at like 16 years old, man. She's nasty.
Okay.
So she's beaten...
So you know that, and then as far as UFC, she only fought Heather Joe Clark in her debut. And
she was the biggest name.
Beat her pretty decisively there.
She was the biggest name not taken in the... You remember that big overtake by UFC on Invicta where they took like 3/4 of their roster?
Yeah, when they like bought a division. Mm-hmm. Wasn't it with 115ers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Paige Van Zant's division, I think.
Yep.
But right after that, they didn't grab Grasso, and Grasso's looking great over there, man. But her teammate just lost, man, and her teammate was really highly touted, Irene Aldana. And she just got beat by one of the veterans. What the heck? Trains with Nick and Nate Diaz. Gangsta gal. Let's just move on, man.
But Alexa Grasso, Felice Herrig, quick prediction. What was the line looking like for that?
The betting line. Alexa Grasso minus 285. Felice Herrig plus 225. And notice some of these lines are subject to change. You know how gambling works.
As always.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think they're leaning too much towards Alexa here?
I think it's a fair line. I think it is a little bit of a hype Sage Northcutt type line. You know what I mean? But Grasso should win.
And Felice is kind of inconsistent, so I think a good test for her.
I think plus 225 is a little bit disrespectful to Felice.
Yeah, she's kind of a veteran.
As I do, plus 265 is a little bit disrespectful to Angela Hill. If you want to take both girls as underdogs, I think they both have a chance, but they are both expected to lose.
I would go one underdog, Angela Hill. But I would leave Felice alone if I was you.
I agree.
This one's kind of risky.
I'm not as sold.
Alexa's looking good.
I'm not really sold on Felice's skills.
And then Felice, I gotta look at the weigh-ins. I gotta look what shape they're in. Like, Felice does a lot of shit on the side, like modeling shit, trying to act, and things like that. We'll see how focused she is coming into this fight, because she's been up and down lately, so kind of a hit or miss.
Yeah, make sure to have the Vaseline ready for that one.
I ain't watching fights with you this weekend.
And our main event, which is also kind of tough to predict. This is UFC Fight Night.
Dennis Bermudez, Cheng Sung Jung, the long-awaited return of one of the more exciting fighters.
What was his last fight? Aldo was his last one?
Was it?
I think so, where he threw out the shoulder. I believe the last fight in the UFC, threw out the shoulder, and then, if I'm not mistaken, he went to service tour duty.
Yep. Lost to Jose Aldo after... I kind of remember that fight. They fought in Brazil, and that was like just a wild fight. They both kept hitting each other.
It was close.
But Korean Zombie went a little bit too wild there. And hurt himself, yeah. Ultimately. Jose Aldo capitalized.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. When you throw a shoulder out, you can't really do much, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, I know.
My big question, my big talking point on this fight is, are we going to see that Korean Zombie? Because even that Korean Zombie doesn't necessarily beat this Dennis Bermudez. This Dennis Bermudez is a problem. He's strong. He throws people around. He outpositions people. I think he probably would beat that Chan Sung Jung that fought Jose Aldo that night. So how does what kind of training has he been getting in the Korean military? You know, what's been going on?
I don't know anything about that, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Probably safe to assume that he's stayed in shape.
Yeah,
given that it's military. Korea is not completely behind the curve as far as training MMA. There are people in Korea that he could have potentially trained with.
Is that what he was? Korean military?
South Korea, yeah.
South Korean military, that's right.
Yeah, so Korea is not completely behind the curve as far as MMA and especially martial arts.
Where are you as far as their skills? If we get the same Chan Sung Jung that we had versus Aldo,
but that's the question. He's coming after a long layoff. Hasn't fought in over 2 years.
Yeah, but hypothetically, we see the best Chan Sung Jung that we've ever seen.
Best Korean Zombie and best Dennis Bermudez. I would give it to Korean man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
too versatile.
He's tough. He's got the subs. He's got the stand up. He's got a hella good chin. It's really a question of how has he taken this layoff. That's gonna play a big factor in this.
So listening to what you're saying, I'm assuming you're rolling with Chan Sung Jung in this one.
I'm a big fan. If I had to pick one,
yeah.
Look, man.
Let me tell you the bet line. You want to hear the bet line on it? It's
Go ahead.
Dennis Bermudez 185, Chan Sung Jung plus 150. So modest favorite, modest underdog. I like that line for Dennis, man. Dennis has been active. Chan Sung Jung's been inactive.
I was gonna say I was probably lean a little bit on Dennis, given to he's been active and he won his last two.
He's a powerhouse, man.
He only lost to people that are pretty fucking good. I think Jeremy Stevens beat him.
If you watch him train, man, that guy trains with the best. He's in there fucking. He's a future contender, man.
He comes from wrestling background. Wrestling could be the it factor against a Japanese fighter who aren't as proficient in wrestling. A lot of Japanese or Asian fighters. Yeah.
But when the Korean Zombie, if
Jung isn't Japanese, but a lot of Asian fighters have to come over and fill in the holes as far as wrestling is concerned. And I know Jung has been training in America with like Alpha Team and shit like that. But the wrestling of Bermudez could be the factor here. He could take him down, maybe hold him there.
Yeah, and Bermudez when he's one of those guys that when he gets top position, it's hard to get off of you.
Yeah, very top heavy guy. It looks like upside down triangle.
He throws a lot of. He doesn't just lay on top of you. He throws a lot of punches. He stays real busy and like really beats the face on top. Man, looks for fight ending punches.
So if Dennis Bermudez is able to impose his wrestling and kind of close in the distance, not let Jung pepper him with punches from the outside and kind of get those combinations started. And also important for him to keep his composure because Jung is really, really good at subs.
Something I want to add to what
First twister in UFC.
Good point. Something else I want to add is the way he got his nickname. He's a guy that just eats punches and comes forward. So that you got to take that into account when looking at this fight too. He's probably going to be able to take Dennis's best shots and still be there, which is a problem for guys like Dennis that bring a really high pace. And what do you think? Do you agree with that? Or
it could be a factor. Yeah, I agree with it.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen. Has he ever been knocked out?
And it's going to be 5 rounds. If it goes the distance, this is another thing to consider.
It is a
it's a main event.
Fight.
5 rounds. Bermudez. The longer this goes, the more likely he's going to get tired.
Has the Korean Zombie ever been knocked out?
By
Didn't the goofy guy knock him out? I think the goofy guy knocked him out.
Leonard Garcia.
No, even goofier. George Roop hit him with a head kick. Like one of the goofiest guys ever in that division.
Roop did kick him.
Just
kicked
fucking
the shit out of him.
Starved himself to make it.
Yeah.
Just like completely starved himself. Looked like oh god, what's a nice way?
He was knocked out by, not really knocked out, but TKO Jose Aldo. I think he ate a fucking kick there and just went down and took some more punches before it was called. And then
no, the Jose Aldo one's the one where he threw out his shoulder, and then Jose didn't back down when he threw out that shoulder. He just kind of went fucking ham on it. He kicked him in that shoulder, then he started punching the face.
Oh, damn.
Like, yeah, you know how, like, some guys are like, oh, shit, he threw out his shoulder. I'm going to stop.
Jose's like, nah.
Stop. Jose's like, oh. I mean, he did what a fighter's supposed to do.
He smelled the blood.
You know, especially high level like that, is going for the championship. That was for the championship belt. You know,
right on.
So he saw the injury and he went after it, man. He kicked him in that arm. He did everything he could to finish it.
Yeah, Roop did knock him out.
And the Korean Zombie was never knocked out like TKO. He just couldn't continue because his arm was out of socket. You know.
Okay, fair enough. So knocked out only once.
Yeah, and me being somebody that
by a hell of a head kick, by the way,
that's had shoulder surgery. And I don't want to go too far into this because I'm not a doctor, but hopefully he's had that shoulder surgically repaired. Because if he hasn't, there's a possibility of it coming out again in this fight. And I'll just leave it at that because that's kind of the way your shoulder joint works.
So real quick, just run down with predictions. Dennis Bermudez, Alexa Grasso, James Vick. OSP, toss-up between Anthony Hamilton and Marcel Fortuna. Don't know much about Marcel.
Were we the same on everyone this card?
I think so.
Ooh, that's a rarity.
Except I'm leaning towards Angela Hill against Andrade.
Yeah.
I like her as an underdog here. Do you have the same prediction?
I'm gonna put some money just because the value of that line. But I like Jessica Andrade. Like, realistically in my head, do I think Angela Hill's going to go in there and beat Jessica? It's going to be hard to in the office for that to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to be the toughest fight of Angela Hill's career.
And I think this will go to a decision. I don't think.
But does she have the skills to win? You better believe it.
Yeah, I think they can both outpoint each other.
Angela's definitely got the skills to beat her. Jessica's a motherfucker though. Jessica's no bitch, man.
No, this one's close. I like these fights, even though this is kind of a low key card.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with this card, but like some of the things I really want to see Chan Sung Jung again. I really want to see Alex Grasso because I think
the continuation of her rise.
Yeah, like she's supposed to be the next challenger to JJ. Like, that's who they're touting as the next one. I want to see if that's the case.
Opinion. Do you think she fights for the title if she wins over Felice?
No.
In an impressive fashion.
If in impressive fashion, then she's only one fight away.
Fair enough. I mean, I agree with you. I'm just asking for trivia questions.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we got to throw them back and forth, man. That's how we keep this thing going.
So, a couple of other fights.
I'll let you get back.
Skelly wins in his fight. Tisha Torres over back Rawling, I think was the other prediction.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Moreno, Nico Price.
This
Moreno
is the one
over
that
Nico Price.
This is the one neither one of us could really predict. I'm gonna pick Moreno in this one personally.
Yeah,
I don't know what the betting line is, and Nico's gonna be the bigger, more intimidating, stronger fella. I'm not gonna lie, man. Nico's going like at weigh-ins. When you look at weigh-ins, you're probably going to want to throw your money on Nico.
Fair enough. Yeah, man, this kind of sums up going over next week's card. real briefly as far as recent events, news. We wanted to talk about a bit of a late stoppage with Herb Dean. We wanted to touch on Conor's Q&A he had with Ariel Helwani recently in Manchester.
It was fascinating because, like, just to set it up a little bit for the listener, this thing was not a fight. It was not a fight.
But it felt like a fight.
It was an interview, but it had more viewers, listeners, whatever the hell you want to call it, viewers, because it was an event. I mean, this thing had an intro. This thing had a DJ.
A video package. It had music. It had promos on screen. It had Conor roll out in Rolls Royce, while Bruce Buffer audio introduced him as he came out.
Bruce was there. Bruce was there.
I mean, it was so over the top. It felt like he was going to actually fight somebody.
How about his WWE promo? I am the face of the Bentley. I'm face of Bentley.
It was great. I mean, the guy undeniably is put our favorite sport on the new level.
Yeah, love him or hate him. I mean, you gotta kind of respect what he's done for the sport. I mean, you might not root for him, and that's fair. You don't have to root for him. Like I said earlier, I always root against Sam Alvey. You don't have to root for everybody.
I always root against Overeem.
There you go. I love Overeem. He hates him. So when it gets knocked out gloriously, Dema loves rubbing it in my face. But yeah, let's go. Like, the takeaway points I got from that are, I mean, the wicked amount of size of the people that were watching it. There were more people wanted to see that than the two future, whoever was contending for Amanda Nunes's belt. That says something. That says something. Perfect host, I feel, in Ariel Helwani for it. He's at the top of the MMA game when it comes to this thing. MMA journalism, talking about MMA. It would be a dream to, actually spend some time with him and pick at his brain about how to be good at this kind of stuff. He is the Michael Jordan, in my opinion, of the MMA journalism game. But like I said, this game hasn't been around that long, and that's part of the reason me and Dimitri want to get into it, because we have the knowledge. We've been watching since day one. We've been gambling for over 10 years on this sport. So that kind of, helps out. I believe we're done with this little podcast. I did want to thank everybody that did stay around and listen to it. I know a lot of you guys, this is our first one, so a lot of this is just going to be our pals that just want to tell us that we did a good job. But we would definitely appreciate any kind of feedback on our show. We appreciate the listen. Tell your friends about it, please. Our goal is to keep bringing you guys good MMA quality, and the more success we have with this, I think the better planning, the more quality product we can bring you.
Yeah, like I said, the more we do it, the better we'll get at it, the more smoother this will be. This is the very first one, but the goal will be to do this on a weekly basis at least, kind of cover what happened in the week before and a card that's coming up. We're probably going to aim for like a midweek release. Haven't made up a mind yet on the schedule. Yeah, but that's to come together as we hope to consistently keep this thing going.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're gonna try to hit you guys with one of these at least at worst case scenario. We want to do weekly, but at worst case scenario, I think Demo agrees with this. We're going to try to get you one of these after every MMA card, after every UFC card specifically, because MMA card, we can't guarantee after Bellator World Series of Fight. We do want to go over these events.
We'll touch on, but UFC is the mainstay. UFC is what we're most knowledgeable about and what we can speak about the most. But we'll definitely touch on everything.
Yeah.
With that said, this will be primarily centered at least 80% around UFC.
Yeah, around the big card.
Yeah.
And can you blame us?
Not at all.
All right. But yeah, we would appreciate any feedback. If you think we suck, tell us we suck so we can get better. I'm excited about asking our buddy Zach about this because I know he's not going to sugarcoat it.
So shout outs to Zach, Farhad, my beautiful girlfriend Sierra.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
And we'll definitely be having some guest hosts on this show too.
So
you said thanks for listening.
I'm gonna say thank you for listening now. For sure. Keep this thing going. Tune in next week. Shoot the ones. Genya and Dema out.